Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 11 of Toolhouse Rock. Today, we are excited to be hosting ThriveCoin. A quick summary on Toolhouse Rock for any first-time viewers. This is a structured community call to give projects a space to showcase what they're building to the maker community with a specific focus on the endgame transition and the eventual sub-DAOs. Before we get started, a few disclaimers. Our views are our own and are not representative of MakerDAO as a whole. Inaccuracies are possible, especially if you're viewing this in the distant future. And finally, none of this is financial or legal advice, purely informational. Okay, let's take a closer look at ThriveCoin. When analyzing ThriveCoin, we think this project will be especially applicable to the accessibility scope as well as the protocol scope. Next, looking at improvement categories, certainly community building, scalability, and integration. Okay, please welcome Daniel and Sanad from ThriveCoin. We're very excited to have you here today. I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen.
Cool. We're really excited to be here, and thanks everybody. Thanks Catcher for helping to make this happen, and thank you. And I think Juan, you're co-hosting, so thank you guys for hosting, or thank you for hosting as well. I'm Daniel, and I am a co-founder of ThriveCoin, and happy to introduce myself in just a second. Really quickly, Senate is on with me as well. He is a business development lead with us. Amazing guy. If you want to give a quick introduction, would love it. And then I'm happy to introduce myself to.
Absolutely. Thank you, Daniel. And as Daniel said, thank you guys for hosting. It's really meaningful for us to be here. Quick background on me. I'm a sociologist by training. Did my major in sociology last year. Finished it last year. Dived into this whole ecosystem of DAOs, Web3 a couple of years ago, and started contributing to EFfortlessly. Basically became a core contributor there, been in the grants committee, multi-sig, actually helped establish a major partnership between EFfortlessly and ThriveCoin. And we were able to create some major impact, and we're still supporting EFfortlessly. And at the start of this year, I decided to basically devote my life and almost all of my time to furthering the mission and building a ThriveCoin and ensuring that the protocol grows. And super excited to be here today. And Daniel, throwing the ball back to you.
Sweet, thanks. So I'm Daniel, and just some personal background on me that I think is relevant to the work that we do. I have been seeking my entire adult life to build what I've grown to call contribution economies. So worlds in which people contribute value to their communities, and what they get in return is something more intrinsically meaningful and extrinsically valuable than a dollar. And I think that's, really aligned conceptually with, what Maker is trying to do with DAI. Maker is trying to build an unbiased world currency. And I got very lucky. I built two organizations before ThriveCoin. One was in the philanthropic technology world. The other was in the enterprise culture world. Both had really significant scale, and got into blockchain and into Bitcoin back in 2013, back when Senate was like 2 years old. And when I took a deeper look after we exited my last organization about 2.5 years ago, the technology leadership team and me, we realized, oh my gosh, the tools now exist to do the same thing that we've been playing with for many years, but at a level of scale and robustness that wouldn't have otherwise been possible. And ThriveCoin kind of comes from that. So I think the way that I'd like to introduce ThriveCoin, and Ketcher and I had talked about this beforehand, so hopefully this works. is first I'll start with a simple deck. We'll just walk through, I'll conceptually introduce what we do to you. Then we'll do a demo. I'll show it to you. It's working, it's live, lots of people are using it. And then I'm really excited to have an open conversation about how ThriveCoin might be able to support the end game and support various initiatives that MakerDAO is working on as well. So that's I think the agenda. Anything I missed, Catcher?
No, yeah, that sounds great. Thank you again for being here.
Cool. All right. So let's get going. So we have a really big vision with ThriveCoin, and I think immediately it'll jump out the similarities between at a vision level and a values level what we do. So we believe in a world where real equity is possible, a world where it doesn't matter who you are, where you are, what your background is. If you create value for your community, you should be rewarded proportionate to the value you create. And one of the things that we love about the Web3 community, it's the reason that we're a part of it, that we're natives in this space, is that we think that the Web3 community, the DAO community, reflects those same values. But the problem is that's actually not the way things work in the broader DAO community as a whole. Today, 1% of or less than 1% of people who make valuable contributions to DAOs are actually rewarded for the contributions that they make. And the reason for that is a technology problem. How do you actually reward distributed, decentralized, largely anonymous people who are making contributions across a bunch of different platforms? And that's sort of the problem that we set out to solve. So Web3 communities can't reward members at scale. And that kind of hairy problem, how do you reward distributed, decentralized, largely anonymous members, has a couple pieces to it. The first is that generally speaking, they can't auto-validate those the contributions that people make. If people are making contributions across Web3 platforms, Web2 platforms, IRL, how do you validate that? And how do you do it in a way that protects against bots, bad actors, Sybil attacks? That's a really big, hairy problem that largely the community hasn't understood how to approach. Once you figure out how to do that, then how do you auto-reward people with native tokens that they actually value? And how do we make sure that everything's actually transparent, that the work that we do can exist on chain so that at both a macro level and at an individual level, we can learn from it. We can benefit from understanding sort of what we've done and how we've done it. So that's the problem. The solution is ThriveCoin and a protocol that we created called the Thrive Protocol. And the Thrive Protocol supports scalable, automated, on-chain rewards. It actually does all that stuff. So the first thing that it does is it supports the auto-validation of any of theoretically millions of ways in which people can contribute to their communities. We then can auto-reward community members with native tokens or with any other digital currency or frankly, digital good. And then we auto-record receipts on chain. We even built our own blockchain explorer so that it propagates those receipts as thank you notes. Literally, people are thanked for every contribution that they make to their communities. And we're builders sort of at a core. We built without kind of telling anybody for about 15 months. And then we launched with Bankless DAO about 8 months ago or so, maybe 7 months ago. And, it was a massive hit. A world where about 1% of people are rewarded for their valuable contributions to DAOs. Over 87% of people in Bankless DAO suddenly were rewarded and recognized for their active contributions. In a world where seasonal increases in contributors are going down, Bankless DAO saw the opposite. In a world where top contributors generally speaking, are feeling burnt out, right? It's hard in a crypto winter. And Bankless DAO top contributors started doing a lot more. And the impact of the work that we did with Bankless DAO is that, you know, we had some great opportunities to go even bigger. And one of them was with ApeCoin. ApeCoin gave us one of the larger grants, certainly in this crypto winter. It was at the time a $1.5 million worth of ApeCoin grant to support their entire ecosystem. And it has been just a really extraordinary experience working with ApeCoin. We just finished up season 1 about a month and change ago, and it was nuts. I mean, there was over 500% increase in the number of active contributors to the DAO, over a 200% increase in daily engaged governance users, over 300% increase in governance proposals. Many, you know, we're just starting to see some of those proposals be passed right now. There's this great quote. I was just on this Twitter Spaces with a couple thousand people in the community or adjacent to the community. And one of the board members of the ApeCoin Foundation was asked on the Spaces, you know, what has been the most valuable initiative undertaken by the DAO? And his answer was, that's easy, us. And that was a really big deal because he was actually one of the people who, for very good reasons, you know, really wondered whether or not it would work. And the reality is that, you know, we're now in season 2, we're about to finish up season 2, and the data, the metrics have gotten even better. We've doubled some of these metrics. So it's been really exciting to see that. And, you know, we're now working with Avagachi, with Shapeshift, with, you know, all these really wonderful communities that have varied needs, but our infrastructure is really agnostic to the needs. We're able to support it all. So how does it work? And I'm going to show you this in a second, so hopefully that'll bring it to life. But basically, you know, sort of like a bounty board, you can see a community page where people will be able to see all the ways they can contribute to MakerDAO, and we'll talk about kind of what that means and how we can tailor it how we can tailor contributions in such a way that really reinforce the value that is desired, but people can see all the ways they can contribute. They then connect their wallets, and that's really where everything changes, because a lot of communities choose to retroactively reward at least some amount. And so the technology takes over and it auto validates contributions that people made, auto rewards them, auto records it on chain. It's a really special moment for people oftentimes when they connect their wallet for the first time. And so that's how it works. Contribution categories. Really, what's so interesting and neat about this infrastructure is that we can adapt it to support a really wide swath of needs of communities. So we're not just supporting governance or marketing or, you know, building. We can really support it all because we can, you know, auto validate, auto reward, auto record on chain, whether it's governance, onboarding, collaborations, building, etc. You know, one of the neat things is that we believe we support somewhere around 60% of all Web3 activity right now, meaning we can reward people for it in a way that is largely automated. And, you know, hopefully within X number of months, it'll be up to 90 or 95% of activity. So we can support dozens and dozens of platforms. So, you know, like a lot of the activity in MakerDAO is sort of on discourse or on Discord or on GitHub. That's all stuff that we support and a lot more. So the way that we think about supporting communities is first we try to understand in the MakerDAO kind of framing, what's the end game? And what ultimately are we trying to do, and how do we measure success? And then once we clarify that, we're able to create paths of, you know, increasingly important and meaningful sets of contributions that people engage in the community that will help drive that success. and then we help kind of hook up and automate that. Our core experience, our team, we have a ton of experience at scale, not just in Web3 and with big Web3 communities, but also, most of our tech leadership team was tech leadership team at my last organization. And our clients were like Google and Cisco and Oracle and KPMG and organizations like that. And so our experience is not just in building technology that can be deployed at scale, it's in really high level support that ensures that that technology is leveraged in a way that actually drives the impact that we care about. So there might be an ADC path, or there might be a builder path, which again is sets of contributions that create increasing value. One thing that I want to draw your attention to over here is that we build things in a way that protects against bots and bad actors. We actually have 5 layers of bot and bad actor protection and farmer protection, which has allowed us to work with communities at scale in a way that really favors driving significant results. This is a little bit of a gimme slide, but we have a good leadership team. The most important thing you should know about our leadership team is that we know each other, we love each other, and generally speaking, we've worked together for years. And we also have had a good amount of success across Web3, Web2, building protocols at scale, ensuring that they drive the kind of impact that's desired. So I think that probably is a good starting place in terms of just understanding what ThriveCoin does. I think the next step probably makes sense to do a demo, or is it okay if we just run straight into the demo, or does anybody want to ask any questions beforehand? I'm happy to do either.
Daniel, we do have a question from, oh, sorry. I think Bonapuluka said, go ahead and do the demo. Yeah, sorry about that. Keep going.
Sweet. Okay, great. Let's do it. So I could kind of open up any community. It doesn't really matter. So can you guys see my screen? It should show ApeCoin. Is that right? Okay. So here's ApeCoin, and you'll see over here that they're in season 2. There were somewhere around 70 to 80 really active contributors that ApeCoin could see before we started working with Bankit. We now have 1,079 active contributors, and we're just a couple months in. And what you see over here is these are the ways to contribute that the Bankit is the initiative that we're running with them. And there's a board that their job, and this is the case with every community that we work with. So their job is threefold. It's to choose ways to contribute. It's to choose the validation mechanisms, the ways that we know that we drove the kind of impact, and that we can automate the validation of it, and then to choose reward amounts. And then the board meets on a weekly basis. They look at data and they look at feedback from the community, and they adjust any of those pieces. So these are the 44 ways to contribute that the board has chosen. They're aligned with a couple different paths that ApeCoin is focused on. One is an influencer path, another is an artist path, actually, which is kind of interesting. And another is a governance path. And you'll notice here, let's do this. Let's organize this way. So if I go from lowest to highest, the idea is that the contributions that people are making should become increasingly more significant or meaningful. So voting in a contest, attending weekly calls, onboarding onto something, dropping knowledge and sharing in different meaningful ways in the Discord server. These are all like pretty low value stuff, retweeting certain things, then making a meaningful contribution to a focus group, serving as a note taker, posting ideas, completing a ledger quest, leveling up NFT security knowledge. You'll notice it's sort of getting more meaningful as we go. hosting an ApeCoin related Twitter space, organizing meetups. Now we're getting into kind of more ApeCoin that they've offered for this, featuring ApeCoin or ThankApe in a Twitter space, receiving different levels of trust and discourse, various different kinds of discourse activity is rewarded here. And, they just did a really large art contest where the theme of the contest was ape in the future of ApeCoin, and artists needed to design art that reflected that. And they had, I mean, just hundreds of pieces of amazing art, thousands and thousands of people involved retweeting it and quote tweeting it. Obviously, with MakerDAO, the contribution types are massively different, but what we care about is the infrastructure, right, that's underlying it, and the infrastructure for us to support Maker is the same. So you'll notice over here, here's the reward amounts, the amount of time it can be completed. One of the interesting things about ThriveCoin is the auto-validation piece. We literally across platforms auto-validate everything. So if you want to be a part of it, all you have to do is connect your wallet. Once you connect your wallet, sort of you're in, and the technology takes over. It auto validates anything that you've done, auto records on chain, and auto rewards. So if we go over here, you can kind of see the different contributors. If I click on one of the contributors, you'll see a really interesting view, which is these are all the contributions that they've made to ApeCoin or any other potentially community that we've supported, but across platforms. So Snapshot, Discord, I mean, some people it's across dozens and dozens of platforms. So you can see that this person has been rewarded for all kinds of things, that from a ledger quest to Twitter stuff to Discord stuff, it's all here. It's all in one place. You'll also notice over here that I can click on this link that says view thank you notes. And what that does is it actually opens up the blockchain explorer that we built. We call it a thank you note explorer. It gives this person a thank you note for the contribution that they made. And, as it relates to MakerDAO, whether we're wanting people to contribute to the end game in various ways or to AVCs in ways that are really understandable and clear, and we can demonstrate the value that's been created, et cetera. I mean, all of this stuff literally lives on chain, which is pretty cool. So I can go through more, but hopefully this is sort of a good start in terms of what we do, how we do it. I'm so excited for the discussion around how this can apply in all kinds of different cool ways to MakerDAO, but I'd love to answer some questions to sort of get going.
Thank you, Daniel, for that demo. Great to see the platform. One question from the chat was, how does ThriveCoin differentiate between, truly valuable contributions and not so valuable ones? It seems like in part it's up to the community that's engaging with ThriveCoin. I don't know if you have anything to add there.
Yeah, so this is a really big piece. So the community elects a board to represent them, to represent their interests. So we don't actually choose. We're agnostic about what a community decides is valuable. So for example, using ApeCoin, the ApeCoin board, two of the people are on the board of the ApeCoin Foundation. A couple of the people were also elected members of ApeCoin, and a few other very active in the community. And so those are the people who are choosing, and their job as board members is to listen to the community and look at data. So they then need to choose objective measurements for what value is. Because remember, all of this is automated. So it ultimately needs to be auto-validated. So they choose objective measurements for value. So it's not because, Sened's a cool person, or we worked together for years. It's that something was objectively completed that was considered valuable, and then it's rewarded and it's recorded on chain. And that could range from anything like taking notes during a meeting, and notes would be one contribution. Another contribution might be reviewing those notes and making sure they're at a certain level of quality. I saw that there's now kind of like a MakerDAO had sort of a forum post about how to use Chat GPT to kind of summarize meeting notes as well. And it's like a 20-step process, right? So that could be a great example of a valuable contribution within the context of MakerDAO, et cetera.
Great, thank you.
I see another. Oh yeah, go on.
Yeah, no, feel free to just take the questions and run with them. Yeah, I think the next one was a little bit more detail on the 5 layers of bad actor protections you mentioned earlier.
Okay, so I'll give an example of one of them, just so you have a sense. So one layer is that there are known validation mechanisms and unknown validations. So for example, let's say that MakerDAO was wanting to incentivize discourse forum activity in some way. Like for example, you make a really valuable reply to a discussion post. The known validation mechanism, the known validation piece might be 10 people liked or hearted it. The unknown piece might be, and 2 of them were level 3 contributors or above. So that, if you're a farmer, or if you're a bot builder, you may sit there and try to do your best to adjust to support the known validation pieces, but you're not going to know the unknown ones. And here's the cool thing: the board can practically instantly change those unknown ones. So let's say somehow that you just guess and you guess right. The board actually can address that within seconds. And what that plus 4 other things has allowed us to do is to, see, some scale in communities without the historical worries that Web3 communities, well, the worries are there, but the bad impact has not happened, have had to deal with.
Great, thank you. And next question, does ThriveCoin have any sort of best practices when it comes to starting a new integration with a Web3 community or a DAO?
Oh yeah, I mean it's significant, and we put a lot of resources into ensuring success with the community we work with. And it's not our background, again, at the leadership level. Our background is in supporting a lot of the biggest brands in the world, even on the technology side, or financial brands. And they have very high expectations about what success is and what success looks like. And so the impact is that what we really try to bring to DAOs is something similar, both world-class technology and then world-class support. So when we get going, we literally take the advisory board. It's called something different in each DAO. So they all alliance, board, advisory board, guild, they all have a different name for it. But we are the support for that board to ensure that a deployment creates the kind of value that is desired. At the end of the day, what we care about is impact. And when we look at the Web3 landscape, we believe very strongly that there must exist infrastructure that ensures that value is created at scale, and the kind of value ultimately that can drive and support thriving communities. And we think that sort of we're an essential and important part of that infrastructure.
And I saw in your earlier slide, it honestly surprised me a bit and is also very exciting. The increase in governance participation as well as actually, proposing governance proposals. Could you speak on that a little bit? It seems, really powerful that these aren't just, users coming and engaging for a small reward, but it seems very sticky and they're actually coming back to participate in meaningful ways and continue that participation.
First, I'll talk about it from like a personal, almost, philosophical, almost theological perspective, which is people deserve to be rewarded for the contributions that they make to their communities. They do. And when people are appropriately rewarded, they will create more value. And, that shouldn't be a debatable topic from my perspective, right? People deserve to be rewarded. And when they're rewarded, they'll create more value. So when we think about what it means to create truly equitable, truly kind of in our words, like thriving communities, we have to figure out how to do that. There's another piece, which is where our expertise lies, because what I was lucky enough to do in 2 organizations before this, which is how do you think about rewards in a way that ultimately drives real value, real impact? And the reality is we have to support people in moving from what I used to call, when I worked in kind of the nonprofit philanthropic space, in moving from being armchair activists, just talking about the causes that they care about, but not doing anything, to really deeply engaging those same causes. And it's the same thing in DAOs, right? There's a lot of people who give a shit about MakerDAO. And how do we take that lot of people who give a shit about MakerDAO and support them in being truly useful? We've got to steward them in doing whatever the next most meaningful and useful thing is that they can do to the next one and the next one, and so on and so forth. And if we do that right, we're going to create real significant value.
I like that term, armchair activist. That's a good one.
I think that this is sort of also a good point to kind of loop it back toward MakerDAO in general. So first, some of the things I love about Maker is I love this idea of an unbiased world currency. I love this idea of a currency that doesn't discriminate. It is so deeply aligned with our values. Our values is literally our vision is we want to build a world where real equity is possible, right? And a currency that doesn't discriminate is a really big part of it. And then connected to it is infrastructure that supports people in creating value in ways that don't discriminate, which is what we do. So first, just from a values perspective, one of the reasons I was excited about this call, and I've been excited to dive deeper into Maker and get to know so many amazing members of the community, is I think that there is really deep alignment. The second is, in terms of the way that I understand sort of the end game, which is it's this really big proposal that overhauls and kind of improves the governance process and the tokenomics process for the Maker ecosystem. It's a really big vision. And, there are all kinds of important pieces, and there is a critical component of it is getting a decentralized community of people really excited to create value in all the ways that are needed to create value to make that end game happen. And we can talk if you want to about the end game goals, which I think there's deep alignment with us. It's very interesting to me that on top of like providing access to an unbiased world currency, there is this component, like the second goal, which was it's awesome, right? Ensure Maker has a meaningful charitable impact, right? So it's like the goal is a big one. And then, well, how do we ensure that we make it resilient, right? We make sure things are decentralized. we make sure that, you know, the meta, the culture is really supporting value. These are all things, you know, and then we can talk about the scopes, which I think is really interesting as well, or, you know, the AVCs, which I think we could support. It's all stuff that from an infrastructure level we can support. And I'm so excited to have a brainstorm about how we might be able to be useful and to help serve, you know, what I think is an incredible mission and some incredible goals.
Yeah, I'd love to dive deeper on specifically you know, the integration with Maker. You know, I think there's certainly a huge opportunity with the current AVC and delegate structure. You know, obviously automating the contribution recording and the eventual rewards. I think there's also a lot of possible applications with the sub DAOs. Of course, we're still seeing how those are being built out. But yeah, I'm sure that you know, so many manual processes have been eliminated for some of these previous projects that you've integrated with, and you know, frees up contributors' time and ultimately makes the whole DAO more efficient and productive.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And yeah, I was talking with a member of an AVC somewhat recently, and this person's feedback was that, you know, AVC pay is pretty low right now, and it's not really clear how you know, contributions are necessarily valuable. There's not a ton of documentation around specific contributions. The requirements are, you know, theoretically low too, like attend 1 call a week, et cetera. And there's really an opportunity to say, and at the same time, there's a really clear vision about where it's going. And, you know, using AVC as an example, there's an opportunity for us to leverage this infrastructure to really support contributors in understanding, here is a set of valuable contributions that I can make. It's aligned with the sort of, and appropriately kind of clarifies directionally what creates value, is appropriately incentivizing, exists on chain so we can learn whether it works or not, which I saw the note, Peyton, from you about Stefan, I apologize if I mispronounced your name, joining the call. I'd love to learn more about the work that you're doing documenting contributions. So yeah, I mean, there's some really interesting stuff that we might be able to do to really support what is already, I think, directionally a great process, and you know, and hopefully we could potentially provide some value to it.
Okay, and we have a question regarding the Thrive blockchain explorer. I guess, yeah, just more on the motivation behind that. Whether it's encourage productive behaviors or more as like a data feed for continuous improvement.
Both, and some other things too. So, where so 2 things. Our background is in leveraging and learning from large data sets to encourage productive behavior. And our background is in caring really deeply about intrinsic motivations. So, you know, we believe very strongly that if you want to support people in moving themselves to create value in communities, that that requires a combination of 2 things: intrinsic and extrinsic motivations. So extrinsic motivations would be like, hey, you know, I can feed my family. Intrinsic motivations would be like, you know, this makes me feel really good. And, you know, as simple as this is, what makes often people feel really good is just being seen. just being acknowledged, just being thanked for the contributions that they make. And so, the Blockchain Explorer, what it does is it literally allows us to thank people, but it also allows us to, take the metadata, the data from, all of these contributions that and contribution activity that exist off chain, and bring it in one place on chain, so that from a data perspective, we can actually do something with it. And Steph and I just saw your note, but absolutely so excited to jam and explore synergies together.
Yeah, I really like the idea of the personal thank you notes and individual community members being able to, view their profile and look back at all the contributions they've made and feel good and proud of kind of the value they've provided to that community. I think that's really powerful.
Cool. Yeah. I see this note from Penguin Soldier. So the note says, what are the mechanisms for rewarding an aligned delegate that is taking meeting minutes of an AVC meeting, as there could be different users doing it at the same time to get the participating reward? How would the rewards be appropriate for such a use case? Okay, great. So this is a great example of defining the validation mechanism. Let's use, just because I was talking about them before, I'll use ApeCoin as an example. So what they often do is they will say at the beginning of a meeting, who's going to be the public note taker for the, or who volunteers to be the note taker for this meeting. And there's a single volunteer. And, then there is sort of a bot that kind of is, that denotes that, and then it's clear, right? And then what happens is that those notes go to everybody, and they have to obviously hit a certain standard. So it might be the case in ABC meetings that there's a different format. So maybe the responsibility of being in one of those meetings is to take good notes on your specific piece of it. Maybe everybody's responsibility is that. Then we would have a different validation mechanism to cover that use case, that instance. That answer your question, hopefully. Woohoo! So yes, it did. Okay, great. And again, I believe in what we're where MakerDAO is going as it relates to the end game. I love conceptually the scopes, governance and support and protocol and stability and accessibility. I think in different ways we can probably help support those frameworks. I would love to hear, there's a lot of learning for me, but I'd love to hear sort of what next steps might be for us to be able to maybe have a next set of deeper conversations about how we might be able to help create value and where really the specific needs are. And I'd also love to hear if anybody who's on this call right now, if you if you were to say, hey, like, here's the need, let's work on this together, what would it be? So would love to go a little bit deeper there as well, if you'd like.
I'm not sure what others are thinking, but one thing that stuck out in my mind is sort of unlocking the AVCs as well as the delegates to basically have like a limitless amount of earning power, at least within reason. of course, in DAOs generally, and certainly with Maker, contributors have different amounts of time and energy that they're looking to provide to a project. And, currently there's sort of set requirements for getting your compensation, but I think it'd be really powerful for those who are looking to do more work and be rewarded for it to have kind of limitless contribution capabilities. So I think that
That's a great.
where we are today, I think that's the big one that sticks out to me. I'm sure I'm missing a bunch, and there's much more to explore there, but that's one that sticks out in my mind, certainly.
I think that's a great idea, and there's a lot of precedence and research for what you're saying being, really helpful for communities. Like, for example, in the sales side of technology organizations, for example, they're it's not a good idea, and there's a lot of research around this, to have capped earnings. Because if there's only so much that somebody can earn, then once they've earned that, they stop. And so it's really important to have uncapped earnings. And within the context of communities, the reality is there's limitless value that MakerDAO community members can create for MakerDAO. And if there's limitless value that they can create for MakerDAO, then it follows that people should be rewarded for the value that they create. I mean, that's how value gets created and incentivized appropriately. So I love that idea and would love to, help with that.
In terms of deeper conversations, I think the AVCs are a great place to start, and certainly the sub DAOs as they start coming to life here. I'm not sure if anyone else has anything to add to that. And just generally, of course, community members further out on the layers. Okay, is there anything else that you or Sanad would like to add or leave us with as we get closer to wrapping up here?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, thank you for that, and I'm also quite excited about the sub DAOs. I mean, my understanding is, they're really two purposes. One is sort of governance processes, and then the other is generating DAI and then allocating it to collateral assets. And in both cases, I think there's a lot of fun brainstorming we can do around, obviously how we can support there. And it's nice that they haven't yet been launched, right? So I know that there's some clarity about how that's going to work, but if we could provide some infrastructure that can really support it and working even smoother, it would be, we'd be happy to and would love to help with that.
Great.
Yeah, maybe some final words from my side. Yeah, thank you, Catcher. Thank you, Daniel. This has been wonderful. And I can only say that, it's our life's work. And we feel very, very grateful for having the opportunity to actually showcase Thrive Protocol. I want to give the Toolhouse Rock project a big shout out. I think you guys do an exceptional work. I can't wait to see your growth as well, because you definitely deserve it. It was a very smooth and organized process. So big shout out to you guys. And other than that, as Daniel sort of said, super excited to figure out how we can collaborate. We basically devote our time, working time as well as free time, to figuring out how to make basically Web3, how to get this space to thrive. It deserves it. There's the potential. The opportunities are limitless. It needs infrastructure that is scalable and evolutionary, so we can continue to adapt as we grow and continue to learn. And we're happy that we have built something to offer as the opportunity to figure out where could we be in the next 5 to 10 years. Who knows? But we definitely want to be on the ship together. So looking forward to chat with some of you soon and learn more about you and what you do and figure out how to optimally support you. So thanks a lot.
Great. Well, thank you to both of you for what you're building and of course for your time. Real quick, what's the best way for people to learn more about ThriveCoin and how to reach out?
Yeah, so you can just go to thrivecoin.com, or you can reach out to me personally at if you use does anybody use email anymore? But if you do, it's daniel@thrivecoin.com. If you're on Twitter, or I'm Thrive Giraffe, or you can also connect with ThriveCoin HQ. And if you're on Discord, ThriveCoin, I actually am connected to that account. So just reach out to me there, and happy to connect with you as well. And hopefully this is the beginning of a lot of really fun conversations over the coming weeks, and would be quite meaningful for us to collaborate and create something really powerful. And Stefan, yeah, let's talk, let's do it. And hopefully we'll continue the conversation with all of us here and many more soon.
Great. Well, thank you so much for an exciting and educational call. And thank you for everyone who joined. Yeah, we'll see you again soon.
Thanks. Have a great day, everybody.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Thanks, everyone.